Hi everyone, this is Toby from Toby's Urban Sketcher. Today we're going to be looking at this, my palette, what the palette itself is and what's in it. These 14 colours, why I have them, which ones I don't really like, which is interesting to hear, and which ones I've been using for years and really love. Let me know in the comments your questions about colours, about brushes, about pens, anything. Happy to answer or to look towards making a video in the future to answer them. And yes, thank you for watching. Let's get started looking inside the palette. So I have a couple of palettes. This is my little urban sketching palette. It's supposed to hold 12 colours, but you can get 14 colours in if you turn the half pans around. So I've got 14 colours in here. It's small, you can see it's about palm size. It's unbranded, it's just something I picked up actually from Jackson's Art, but there's similar things made by Meaden, for example, on Amazon, and you can get other ones made by Winsor Newton, by lots of different companies. On the outside, it's got a thumb loop, so if you're outside, I try to be as much as possible, pop your thumb in and you can easily hold it stable whilst sketching, even if you're holding something else in that left hand. The other thing is I like having these two areas to mix, so I tend to try and have my brighter colours up here and then bigger pools of mixed murkiness down here. Doesn't always work out that way, but that's my sort of philosophy. So let's swatch the colours out, and I'll spend a minute or so talking about each one, and then you hopefully have a good understanding of why I like these colours. So my top row is all my bright colours. If we start on the left here, I've got Cobalt Turquoise. Now I haven't found a huge number of uses for this. It's a very bright colour. It is heavily granulating as well, or moderately heavily granulating. It produces lovely little splashes, and you can see it's a really vivid colour. Lovely for small highlights, popping it on a window, popping it on, even using it as people's heads, things like that. Sort of slightly interesting uses. It's a novel colour, I'll call it. My next colour is Pthalo Blue. So that again is a nice, bright, vivid blue. It's one I don't often use on its own. It's great for mixing nice greens with a variety of yellows. We can just do this really quickly up here. For example, if we just take a bit of quinacridone, you'll see you get these really lovely varied greens. It's also lovely for mixing with Cobalt Blue to make a classic colour and feel of sky, that sort of crisp spring type sky. And so that's my next colour, is Cobalt Blue. And you can see Cobalt Blue, while Pthalo Blue is quite flat, Cobalt Blue is certainly a granulating colour like Cobalt Turquoise, and a lot cooler. But together these two colours make, I think, a really lovely sky colour. So if we just do a little bit of mixing in my palette here, you'll see that kind of comes out with this lovely sky blue somewhere in between these two blues. Next I've got some permanent alizarin crimson. This colour, I'm going to say, not my favourite. I use it to mix a lot, so you can actually see it's coming out a little bit purple, and that's because I mix it up with blues and things a lot to make a murky colour. You can kind of see a little bit better there what its natural tint is like. I'm actually using this at the moment. I was just experimenting. I've always used Scarlet Lake, which is a Winsor Newton primary red, and to be honest, I think I'm going to go back to using that Scarlet Lake soon, because I think that's a colour I prefer. The next one is a transparent pyrrole orange. I like this again, a bit like my Cobalt Turquoise. It's just hard to mix something quite this vibrant, and I always think of it as a sort of nuclear orange, and again, just splashes and taps here and there can really add a fun highlight to an urban sketch. Next is a colour I've had in my palette forever. This is Hansa Yellow Medium. It's just a sort of stock yellow It's a very nice yellow. I think it holds its weight. It's punchy. Things like lemon yellow and light yellows can just fade too much in the background in urban sketching. Great for watercolour painting where you're being a little more subtle, but for this you need something which holds its weight really nicely. The next one is everyone's favourite colour, I think, sometimes. Quinacridone Gold. So Quinacridone Gold is a lovely, well, goldy yellow. Got a beautiful sort of sunshine feel. Lovely for straw fields, but also for those kind of sandstones. And it has lovely variability, so if you come in and lift it, move it around, it lifts, and it doesn't stain too much. It lifts really well. It's just a lovely colour, quite flat but very lovely. Now we're getting to the interesting colours. So these are what I think of as sort of my granulating or murky colours, but they add a lot of character. So I have got a green in here. This is Cascade Green, which is one of Daniel Smith's sort of heavily granulating colours, and it just, for me, creates interesting effects and textures and pulls out all sorts of different shades when you use it in a big wash. It's harder to create a flat wash with, so if I'm creating a flat wash green, I'll use something like this, I'll mix it, but if I want just texture, easy green, something fun, I use my Cascade Green. Next is Magenta, and this is why I think this red is a bit pointless, because I much prefer this. It feels brighter and happier. They're very close together, and I'm constantly getting my blues mixed in with this red, and it ends up almost, not quite, but almost the same colour, and then it's like, oh well, why have something so close? So what I think I'm going to be doing in the future is having my Magenta here, and then just going back to my lovely favourite colour, Scarlet Lake. This is just something I like using for that warm glow, for maybe plant pots, maybe flowers, roses, that kind of thing. I don't use it a huge amount, but it is a lovely colour to have around. Now we're getting towards really interesting, and this is Lunar Earth. So Lunar Earth, I've done a video about granulation in the past, and Lunar Earth is one of the, as you can tell, lunar colours from Daniel Smith, and it is very heavily granulating. So in the rest of the video, what you'll see is as this dries out, all the sediment, even now you can actually see all these sediments are settling in a really interesting way, and that's what granulation does. You can see it to a lesser extent, for example in the Cascade Green, but a great way of producing interesting tones. It's got a similar colour to a burnt umber or burnt sienna. You can mix it in a similar way, but you're always going to get that heavy granulation. Now the next colour is an ultramarine, and again I'm just experimenting, going back to an ultramarine rather than, I've been using indanthrone for a long time, and I'm just seeing if, you know, if I prefer using a bit of an ultramarine again, or do I want to use indanthrone, which is again a much more sort of murky, grumpy colour if you like, but I had a lot of fun with. The reason I've gone to ultramarine is because it's a little brighter and I have got lots of earthy tones going on. Ultramarine, medium granulating, quite a standard colour really, good for mixing. Often with a burnt sienna or burnt umber you can make lovely neutrals. My sort of next colour is Dyke Brown, a very deep, almost neutral brown, and I think what I'll do is I can show you, if I take some ultramarine here and I just spread it across and then I pop in some Dyke, you can see how it becomes a lovely neutral colour. And then even the same with a bit of Lunar Earth. See how the Lunar Earth becomes a light grey with that. So you get these kind of light grey tones versus a sort of almost black with the Dyke. So that's why I've got a blue in my bottom rows, just so I can easily mix with these browns and create different greys and blacks. Next is Moonglow. You might be able to tell I've almost run out of it. This is a lovely, lovely shadow colour. It's another of the Lunar range. It's a mix of 3 colours, and if I remember correctly, it's alizarin crimson, it is ultramarine and viridian. And what happens is together they neutralise and create greys. The the ultramarine settles because it's got heavier particles, and so you get a nice blue sheen at the bottom, and then the alizarin spreads out, and you get these kind of almost red edges. It's subtle in an area like this, but I often talk about it in my videos. It's a really lovely effect you get in bigger washes, particularly using it in skies or in shadows and things like that. And then my last colour is another lunar colour. This one is Lunar Earth. This one I find the most tricky to understand how it's going to granulate. I think because it's a darker colour, and you're often kind of expecting to do a flat wash, but it's almost impossible. You sort of pop the flat wash down and then you watch it settle, and actually what happens is you've got this incredible texture emerging, but all that tone, that value you thought you'd laid down is gone. And you can see that happening very quickly here. And here you can see these amazing sedimentations. So for that reason I use Moonglow, and I use these mixes for my deep tones, but for interesting textures, maybe clouds, maybe smoke, Lunar Earth has properties which I just don't find elsewhere. So that is my 14 colours at the moment. Hopefully some of the strengths and weaknesses you can tell, for example, from this, which is very much not looking like a crisp red, that I don't necessarily keep my colours nice and clean, just like I don't keep my palette clean, because I like having that slight unpredictability and bit of fun. But I sort of broadly enjoy all these colours, and enjoy experimenting with colours, with textures, and that's why I currently I'm using this set of colours. And I think I have been using this set of colours with the exception of the turquoise, the alizarin, the ultramarine. These colours have been in my sort of stock standard use for more than a year now, so they're pretty stably there. Hope this has been interesting, perhaps helpful, perhaps giving you a little insight into the colours I use and things you might want to try it yourself. My last word in this little video is the exact colours are not important. Find things you enjoy using, but I have several other little palettes I carry around, and I still create things I'm happy with. There's just this warm, happy feeling you get from having something that you really like and are really used to, but do not go out, or do not feel the need to go out and buy these 14 colours. Just experiment with little bits and bobs and gradually move towards what works for you.